we have to bring in Paul Finebaum and Heather Dinich because we got big questions to discuss ahead of the season. And we're starting with you, Paul. Is the Alabama dynasty over now that Nick Saban is no longer the head coach?
Ryan, we've seen Georgia win twice and Michigan win once since Alabama last won a national championship. So, yes, I would declare the dynasty done. It was done before Saban left. It's really done now that DeBoer is there.
Well, you know what, Paul? To somebody like me who lives in Baton Rouge, that is music to my ears. Heather, what does the college football expansion to a 12-team playoff mean for Notre Dame?
It means that Notre Dame should be in the CFP. This is a much more forgiving system. Before, in the 4-team playoff, if Notre Dame lost a game, then it needed some help and there were some questions in the committee room. Now, they have a little bit more wiggle room. ESPN's playoff predictor says that they have a 70% chance to finish with 2 or fewer losses. Only Oregon has a better percentage.
Lewis, is it now or never for Ryan Day in Ohio State?
Yeah, you know, you hate to deal in absolutes, but I think it is. And I love Ryan Day, and I love this coaching staff, especially the new addition here with Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator, considering some of the weapons that he has to work with. One of them being that guy on your screen right there, and Trevion Henderson, and then the transfer in Quinshad Judkins from Ole Miss, who was just absolutely spectacular, and I got to see him a couple times last year. This football team is stacked. It's stacked on both sides of the football. Obviously, the key is going to be quarterback Will Howard, and how does he wind up really just going ahead and taking this new offense and seeing if he can take it to new heights when the passing game comes into focus. But this football team, especially considering some of the struggles that it has had recently with Michigan in particular, and we know they're well documented. Yep. We know that's how people judge head coaches at Ohio State. We know that that's a big part of this. But this team right now doesn't have really any reason to really, or rather any excuses to not reach its full potential. It has got a rock star coaching staff. It has got a rock star roster. It is a well-paid roster.
Yeah.
The expectations should be as high as they are, and this will be a football team I think all of us will be watching very closely.
Paul, between NIL and the transfer portal, Ohio State has assembled a super team. Does Ryan Day have to win a national title this year?
I don't think he has to win the national championships, but here's what he doesn't need to do. If he loses to Michigan, which would be 4 in a row, and somehow gets bounced out of the playoffs perhaps before the final game, I think the decision could be to get rid of him. And I know that sounds outrageous because he has a gaudy record, but you heard Lewis lay it out. Nobody's got, other than maybe Kirby Smart, and I don't even think he does, has the amazing roster that Ryan Day has. And if you can't win with that roster, it's time to find someone who can.
You look at what they've assembled there in Ohio State, Heather. Is Ryan Day coaching for his job this year?
Well, he will be if he doesn't beat Michigan. But for all of the points just made, there is zero reason that they should lose to Michigan at home in the regular season finale. I wouldn't pick it in a million years as we sit here right now in August. But that being said, he's got a new boss, an athletic director, Ross Bjork. He knows the pressure and the expectations. I agree with Paul. If he doesn't beat Michigan for some inexplicable reason, he does then have to contend for the national title. Ohio State fans aren't just sick of losing to Michigan. The big burn is that Michigan has elbowed Ohio State out of the college football playoff conversation on top of that. That's what the real zinger is here, guys. It's of all of the teams and all the planet and all the world to beat Michigan, to beat Ohio State, and then take their spot in the national spotlight. I mean, that's what really hurts. So he's got to do both of those things, I think, or the conversations about his job get real. But my question, Paul, and I've racked my brain on this one, is if you fire Ryan Day, who in the world is available to come replace him? So that's where I kind of press pause on that conversation.
It's a great question, and I think everybody is, who could replace Nick Saban, who can replace anyone, but ultimately you find someone, and you find someone who can win a big game, and that's something that Ryan Day has been unable to do with the best talent.
Well, when you're the Ohio State head coach, it's about beating the team from up north.
Sure.
And Ryan Day hasn't been able to do that with some stacked rosters. And when you see what those guys go on to the NFL and do, it puts it in more perspective of the type of athletes they've had at Ohio State. But let's go to the other OSU and head coach Mike Gundy, who always seems fired up about something. And he's hype about the upcoming season, but he ain't too happy about this NIL era and the way that he has to deal with players in college football. Take a listen.
Told the players, there's no negotiating now. Portal's over. All negotiations history. Now we're playing football.
You can enjoy
just coaching and playing football. The business side of what we do now is we have to have those conversations with them. You know, tell your agent to quit calling us and asking for more money. It's non-negotiable now. Going to start again in December.
Paul, he sounds like a man. He was 40. What's your reaction to what Coach Gundy is saying?
You know, 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said, right on, brother, but this is 2024, and that video, even though they're doing a lot of the right things, I mean, they're putting QR signs on helmets right now to help the players make money, but that video right there will go to every recruit from Oklahoma, Texas, everyone in that area of the country, and they'll use it against Mike Gundy, and that was the mistake. For all of the smartness of that statement, Mike Gundy, it came out really stupid in the recruiting world of this year.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. That's the irony of it all, right? I mean, on the one hand, where people are saying NIL and the ability of these players, or rather, I should just say the willingness of the people around the players in particular, to influence the players to the degree where that now every week after week, coaches are having to recruit their own rosters. It's amazing. It's like, which way do you want it? Do you want the coaches to kind of push back and really just try and focus on coaching their football teams? Or do you want them to play this NIL recruiting game, this public perception game, which is, hey, don't say the wrong thing because you may turn off the wrong player. You may not be able to get the right player and he may go down the road because there's a higher bidder. It has made it very difficult. Let me just put it that way. It's very difficult to coach big-time college football right now because every week you're managing your roster, not just your own players, you're managing their whole support system. Yeah. You're managing their mothers, you're managing their fathers, their agents, their girlfriends, because people are constantly going, hey, why ain't my boy playing?
We need more.
We need some more money.
How much